General Arya Kane stood tall in the grand hall of the Threx Empire's flagship. Her boots echoed on the shiny black floor as she walked forward. Around her, alien officers watched with cold, unreadable eyes. Some whispered in their strange language. Others just stared at her like she didn't belong. She knew what they were thinking. A human? At a peace table? A woman? But Arya didn't care. She had fought on 10 planets. She had bled in 6 different wars. And she was here now alone too. Speak for Earth, the hall was huge, built for beings twice her size. The air smelled of metal and heat. Glowing red banners of the Threx Empire hung from the ceiling, each showing a burning sun surrounded by war spears. At the center of the room stood General Voctor, the commander of the Threx forces. He was tall, armored in dark red plating, and his yellow eyes glowed with power. He had conquered over 20 star systems. His name alone could scare a room silent, but Arya didn't flinch. She stepped up to the long black table and laid down the peace treaty, an old-fashioned printed version. Something humans still believed made things more serious. Voctor growled. You came alone? No guards? No war council? I don't need guards, Arya replied calmly. I'm not afraid of you. The room went still. The Threx officers growled quietly. One raised a weapon but lowered it after Voctor raised his hand. You humans are strange, Voctor said, stepping closer. Too bold, too proud for a dying species. We're not dying, Arya said, her voice sharp but steady. We're adapting. And we're offering peace before anyone else dies. Voctor looked down at her. She was half his size, but her eyes never looked away. That bothered him. To him, humans were soft, weak, emotional, but this woman didn't show fear, not even a little. He stepped around the table, slowly like a predator. His soldiers smiled cruelly. Arya stood still. You think you can walk into my hall? He growled. And speak to me as an equal? I don't think. She said, I know. The room was silent. No one moved. Not even the air. Then, without warning, Voctor kicked her. His armored legs slammed into her side with full force, and she flew across the hall, crashing into a pillar. The sound echoed like thunder. Gasps and alien laughter filled the air. Arya didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She slowly stood up. Her face was calm, cold. A thin line of blood ran from her mouth. She wiped it away and looked at Voctor with eyes that no longer showed diplomacy. No peace, no mercy, only calculation. Are we done here? She asked, voice like ice. Voctor laughed. Yes, little human. We are done. Arya nodded once and walked out of the hall without a word. Back on the human ship, 2 hours later, Captain Morales looked up from his station as the doors hissed open. Arya walked in, her uniform torn, her side bruised, but her face unreadable. General Kane? He asked, confused. What happened? She didn't answer him. Instead, she sat in her chair and spoke into the command channel. Activate Protocol Black, she said calmly. Every officer froze. One pilot dropped his cup. Another turned pale. Protocol Black hadn't been used in 50 years. It was buried deep in Earth's military system. Even speaking its name was forbidden without top-level clearance. Captain Morales whispered, Are you sure? Yes, she said. Full activation, no warnings. No communication, understood. The ship's lights dimmed. Red emergency lines glowed along the walls. Old systems powered up. Hidden programs came alive. Far across space, on Earth's shadow moon, a silent base began to hum. Inside the shadows deep underground, in a base with no name, lights turned on in long-forgotten rooms. Cold metal doors opened with a hiss. Inside slept warriors. Not soldiers, ghosts. Men and women trained to fight without being seen. No emotions, no questions. Only orders. Each one had been part of Project Phantom. Each one had been trained by Arya Kane. They had no homes, no records, no memories outside the mission. They woke up and received a single message. Mission active. Threx General. Class a threat. Clean sweep authorization granted. They geared up in silence. On the Threx ship -3 hours after the kick general. Vokter stood on the command deck, looking out at the stars. His officers laughed, replaying the footage of him kicking the human general. She will think twice before walking into our house again, one said. Vokter smirked. Humans don't understand power. They need reminders. But behind his smile, something felt off. Her eyes had not shown fear. She had not begged. She had not even shouted. Why? Why was she so calm? He pushed the thought away. Prepare the fleet, he said. We move on the outer human colonies in one cycle. Yes, sir. But in the quiet space beyond their sensors, something moved. Something small, invisible, deadly. Earth Broadcast Center message intercepted across the galaxy. News networks began showing strange signals, static, hacked feeds, glitches in military data. Then a face appeared. General Arya Kane. She stared directly into the camera. Her face was calm. Her voice was quiet. To the Threx Empire, she said. You made a mistake. The screen turned black. Then showed a burning Threx outpost. No survivors. No ships. No alarms. Just flames and shadows. And one message. We remember everything. Conclusion of Part 1. Cliffhanger. General Vokter stared at the burning footage with wide eyes. She was bluffing, he said, though his voice was less certain. But somewhere deep in the ship, a silent alarm went off, one of their outer watch. Stations had just gone dark. No ships had been seen. No signals had been sent. Just silence. And in the darkness, the shadows moved closer. Because Arya Kane didn't shout when she declared war. She whispered. And when she whispered, things disappeared. The stars blurred past as Alara Kane pushed her ship, the Little Bird, into faster-than-light jump. Her hands were steady, but her mind was burning. She had a name now. Blacksite VO92, a hidden moon base, deep in Syndicate space. That was where they took her son, and she was going there alone. But Alara wasn't afraid. She was angry. After a long jump, Alara dropped out of hyperspace near a quiet mining system known as Dusk Hollow. Cold, forgotten, and perfect for hiding things. Floating above the dusty moon was an old trading post, barely alive. A few ships came and went. Rusted docking arms hung like bones. It was the kind of place criminals used to trade in silence. She landed without alerting the station. Inside, it smelled like engine grease and old metal. Creatures of all kinds passed her. Thick-skinned beings from frost planets, twitchy insectoids whispering to themselves, and humans who wore fear like armor. Alara walked with a slow, careful pace. She wasn't here to fight, not yet. She headed straight for a small bar tucked into the back corner of the station. The lights flickered and soft alien music played in the background. She found who she was looking for. Tarn, a data broker with a head shaped like a shovel and a memory like a computer. He looked up and froze when he saw her. Alara Kane, he said, voice low. Didn't you disappear years ago? I want a location, she said, sliding a chip across the table. Tarn picked it up and scanned it. That's barely enough for a sector map. I want everything you have on Velkron's moon facility, Blacksite VO92. Tarn blinked slowly. Why do you want to go there? That place doesn't exist on public star charts. Just tell me. Tarn sighed and tapped his console. A holomap appeared, showing a small moon with only one landing zone. The Syndicate calls. It's the furnace, no atmosphere, mining outside. Labs underground, lots of security. And rumor says they hold ... people. Ilura's eyes narrowed. What kind of people? Tarn leaned in. Children. Ones with rare DNA, ones they can sell, test, or train. Her blood went cold. They move them out fast, Tarn added. You wait too long. They're gone forever. She stood. Then I won't wait. Back on the little bird, Alara loaded the map and jumped to the moon Tarn showed her. The journey was rough. Asteroids drifted everywhere, blocking scanners. The moon came into view, dark and red, its surface glowing with heat vents. Mining machines crawled across the rock. A single landing pad blinked slowly like a trap. Alara didn't care. She landed, and the moment she stepped out of her ship, she was under fire. Turrets popped from the ground. Lasers screamed past her. She dove, rolled, and sprinted for a nearby vent shaft. Old instincts returned. She climbed the shaft, crawled inside, and disappeared into the base. Inside, the black site was worse than she imagined. The walls were metal, stained with oil. Alarms blinked, but no voices shouted. It was silent, too silent. She crept down a hallway and found cells empty, but not clean. Chains, scratch marks, and strange machines lined the walls. She reached a security terminal and plugged in her old bypass tool. Files popped up. She scanned quickly, eyes moving fast. Subject 027. Leo Kane status. Transferred destination. Ship 092. Drifter cell. Ordered by Vulcan High Director. Alara's heart dropped. He wasn't here anymore. She read more. Ship 092 wasn't docked at any base. It was Mobile, an experimental lab ship that moved between systems. She downloaded everything and turned to leave, but then she heard it, a soft cry. A child's voice. Alara followed the sound to a sealed room. She forced the door open and found 5 alien children, shaking, eyes wide with fear. She looked around the room. Beds bolted to the floor, no windows, and a single screen showing footage. From Earth. One of the kids stepped forward, voice trembling. Are you here to take us? Alara dropped to one knee. No, I'm here to free you. Getting out wasn't quiet. As Alara led the children through the halls, alarms screamed and guards attacked. She shot fast and accurate, her movements sharp. One guard tried to take a child. Alara took him down in 2 shots. Another guard closed. A blast door ahead. So she blasted a hole through the wall. The kids stared at her like she was something more than human. By the time they reached the landing pad, the moon was shaking from the damage she caused. She loaded them onto the little bird and fired up the engines. As they escaped the moon's gravity, the children crowded around her. One small insectoid girl pointed to the cracked screen where Leo's name still glowed. You're looking for him? She asked. Alara nodded. He's my son. The girl hesitated, then said, I saw him on the ship. The one with the number. They moved him yesterday. Alara turned sharply. Ship 092? The girl nodded. A tiny clue, but it was real. Elara smiled for the first time. Then that's where we go next. Later, after jumping to a safe zone and handing the kids over to a trusted rebel shelter, Alara sat alone in her cockpit. She opened her files. A single line played over and over. Ship 092, Drifter Cell. Unregistered. Stealth class. Last seen in Sector 7. She stared out the window at the stars. You can run, she whispered. But I'm coming. Her eyes burned. Behind her, the stars drifted. Ahead of her, smoke marked the trail of the ship that took her son. The stars around Sector 7 were cold and empty, but Alara Kane knew the enemy was here. She sat quietly in the little bird's cockpit, staring at the readings. Her ship's scanners were running slow sweeps, searching for anything unusual. Suddenly dash there. A faint blip, not a planet, not a moon, a ship. It was barely visible, hiding just above a dying star. Designation: Ship 092, nickname Drifter Cell. The stealth-class ship was coated in black armor and floating silently in orbit. No signals, no ID tags, no lights. It was like a shadow in space view, but Alara saw it. And she was going in. She couldn't approach directly. The ship had defense drones around it. Anything larger than a cargo pod would be shot down. So Alara came up with a plan. She parked her ship on a nearby asteroid, suited up in vacuum gear, and loaded herself into a stolen maintenance capsule. Pod launched quietly, drifting toward the hidden ship like space trash. Inside the cramped pod, Alara checked her tools: a plasma cutter, a hacked ID chip, and a tracker for Leo's DNA signature. She gritted her teeth. "Hold on, Leo, I'm almost there." The pod clamped silently onto the underside of Ship 092. Alara cut a small hole through the hull and crawled into a dark maintenance tunnel. The air was thick and hot. The lights were dim red. This wasn't a normal ship. This was a lab, and it was built for things the galaxy didn't want to see. Alara moved through the vents slowly, careful not to make noise. Below her, she saw glass rooms full of machines. Strange tanks glowed green. Some held creatures, others held children. She checked her tracker. Match found. DNA signature, 87% certainty. Subject, Leo Kane. Distance, 130 meters. Her heart jumped. He was here. She climbed down into a hallway, avoiding two guards by ducking behind a pipe. Their uniforms had the Velcro symbol, twisted red claws on black fabric. Alara moved fast and quiet, taking out a guard silently with a stun shot. She took his badge and used it to access a lab door. Inside, the air was cold, and in the center of the room was Leo. He was asleep inside a glass pod, wires connected to his arms. Monitors around him showed brain scans, DNA readouts, and energy charts. Ilara's heart nearly stopped. She ran to the console and began to hack it. Alarms started to beep. Access denied. Then behind her, a voice. "You must be the mother." Alara spun, gun ready. A tall alien in a silver coat stood in the doorway. His skin was blue, and his eyes were too wide. "I'm Dr. Merrick. I was studying your son," he said calmly. "He's special." "Open the pod," Alara growled. "You don't understand. His DNA reacts to stress in unique ways. We think he's one of the rare Earthborn who can." Alara fired a shot. It missed his head by inches. The doctor froze. "Open it," she said again. Merrick raised his hands and tapped the control panel. The pod hissed open. Alara rushed to Leo and pulled the wires out carefully. He blinked, groggy, then saw her face. "Mom? I'm here, baby. I've got you." She hugged him tight, but they weren't safe yet. Alarms started screaming throughout the ship. "All units breach in lab sector. Subject escape in progress." Alara picked Leo up and ran. Doors locked. Drones flew through the halls. She fired, taking out 2 drones. A third clipped her shoulder, but she kept moving. They reached the maintenance shaft, but it was blocked. She turned, placing Leo behind her. 3 guards approached fast. She raised her pistol. Empty. Then explosions rocked the ship. A hole tore open in the side of the wall. A second ship fired from nearby, the Razor, an old bounty hunter vessel. Alara smiled. Berto sent help. She and Leo jumped through the breach into the Razor's landing bay. As they escaped, Ship 092 started to crack apart from the inside, explosions tearing its core. Later, inside the Razor, Alara held Leo close. He was safe, sleeping. One of the crew members approached, a gruff woman named Mira. "You just took down one of Velcron's top research ships," she said. "They won't be happy." Alara looked up, eyes fierce. "They took my son. I'll burn every one of their ships if I have to." Mira nodded. "There's something else," she said. "That ship had other kids. 10 of them. You freed them too." Alara sat back. She hadn't even realized. "They're calling you the Flame Mother," Mira added. "The woman who torched a lab ship with her bare hands." Alara didn't smile. She just looked out at the stars. "They think I'm done?" she said softly. "They have no idea what I'm willing to do." Alara Kane was no longer a secret. Not after what she did to Ship 092, across 3 star systems. News spread like wildfire. A human mother had destroyed a high-security Vulcan lab ship and rescued her son along with 10 alien children. Some called it rumor. Others called it war. But the Vulcan Syndicate didn't care what it was called. They called it an act of war in the dark chambers of a Vulcan command station. Director Voss slammed his clawed fist onto the table. The other officers flinched. This human burned one of our most valuable assets. Do you realize how much that ship cost? How many years of research we just lost? One of his aides stepped forward. We've placed a bounty on her. 10 million credits, Voss snarled. 10 million isn't enough. I want her erased, her ship, her allies, her name, gone. He pointed to the screen showing Ilara's face. She doesn't get to walk away. Meanwhile, Ilara and Leo were hiding in the outer fractals, a chain of broken moons used by smugglers and outcasts. Inside a hidden cave station, Ilara watched Leo sleep in a warm cot. For the first time, he was safe. He smiled in his dreams, but Ilara wasn't sleeping. She stared at the datapad in her hands. It showed messages from rebel groups, bounty hunter crews, and even planetary militias. They all said the same thing. We saw what you did. We want to help. Join us. Lead us. The Syndicate has hurt our families too. She scrolled through the names, some she knew from her military days. Others were just parents, like her, who had lost someone. Ilara sighed. She didn't want to lead a war. She just wanted her son back. But now, others were following her. Suddenly the base shook. Alarms screamed. Lights flashed red. Incoming ships. They found us. A voice shouted. Ilara grabbed her rifle and ran to the hangar. Through the window, she saw a full Vulcan assault Squad 3 battle. Cruisers and a swarm of drones descending on the caves. They weren't here to capture. They were here to wipe her out. Inside the base, panic broke out. People ran, grabbed weapons, and tried to launch their ships. But Ilara stood in the center of the hangar and shouted, "Anyone who wants to live, follow me." Dozens of people stopped. She jumped into the little bird, and they followed her lead, taking off in whatever ships they had. She sent out a signal. Split formation, scatter, regroup at Beacon Point Delta. Then she took off, flying straight at the lead cruiser. The battle above the moon was chaos. Lasers ripped through the sky. Ships exploded. Drones chased the refugees, but Ilara flew like a storm. She looped around the cruiser, dropped a magnetic charge, and disabled their main turret in one strike. She flew close enough to see the fear in the enemy pilot's face. Inside the little bird, Leo, now strapped in beside her, watched with wide eyes. "Mom, how do you know how to do all this?" Ilara didn't take her eyes off the screen. "Because I used to be like them." After the battle, they regrouped at Beacon Point Delta, a broken station hidden inside a dead comet. There, Ilara was met by leaders of 3 rebel worlds. Krellis Prime Xander 4 Free Earth Outpost 19. They had heard everything, and now they wanted something more. "You're the first person to strike a blow this deep into Vulcan space," said Captain Thara, leader of Xander 4. "Your story is fire. It's spreading hope." "You freed children from one of their darkest labs," said the Krellis commander. "And made them bleed doing it." Ilara raised her hands. "I didn't come here to start a rebellion." Thara smiled. "That's the best part. You didn't mean to. But now we're all following your fire." The commander from Free Earth stepped forward. "You're not just a mother anymore," he said. "You're a symbol." That night, Ilara sat beside Leo, who was drawing on a piece of metal scrap. He looked up. "Are they going to come after us again?" "Yes," she said softly. "Will we be ready?" She smiled, brushing his hair back. "We will." In the distance, the stars shimmered. But in dark corners of the galaxy, enemies were watching and planning. Because now, the Flame Mother had followers, and that made her dangerous. The message came through encrypted channels. A former Velcrin technician had defected. He sent a name, ship, VIREN09 location, moving through Sector E12 purpose. High-level genetic experiments on Earth-origin children target aboard. Confirmed Leo Kane, clone Mark II. Ilara's blood ran cold. What do you mean clone? She asked the technician through a screen. They made a copy, he replied. Insurance. In case the real one escaped. They want to study both. And test them. Ilara's jaw tightened. They copied my son. Now they're trying to replace him. She stood. Her voice was steel. Tell your people, that ship won't exist much longer. Inside a hollowed asteroid base near the Driftline Nebula, Ilara met with her new allies commanders from Xander 4, Krellis Prime, and 2 bounty hunter guilds. On the table floated a 3D holomap of VIREN09, a heavily armored lab ship with a rotating gravity core and private guards. A former Xandorian general shook his head. You'll need a full fleet to take that down. Ilara stared at the image. Then let's build one. Over the next 48 hours, rebel ships rallied. Fighters, smugglers, and defectors joined her cause. Small ships docked with cruisers. Mechanics worked non-stop. Even old bounty hunters prepped weapons they hadn't used in years. The Flame Mother was going to war. In space, near Sector E12. VIREN09 floated quietly, hidden behind a shattered moon. Inside the ship, guards moved through sterile white halls. Scientists studied subjects in glass pods. In one room, a boy sat quietly. He looked just like Leo Kane. Except his eyes were colder. Stronger. He had been trained, altered, and enhanced. The real Leo, safe with Ilara, was unaware, but the clone knew everything. And waited. The rebel fleet exited hyperspace with blinding speed. This is Ilara Kane, she said across all channels. You have something that belongs to me. I'm here to take it back. The battle began. VIREN09 launched drones and turret ships. Ilara's fleet spread into formation, smaller ships drawing fire while heavy bombers pushed forward. Inside her ship, Ilara flew like lightning, dodging lasers, disabling shields, blasting through defenses. Target their thrusters, she ordered. Trap them in orbit. Ships exploded across space. The battle raged, every second dangerous. Then Ilara saw a breach in the lower section of VIREN-09. She dove toward it. Ilara flew into the hole, crashing through a docking bay. Her ship scraped the floor and spun, sparks flying. She grabbed her rifle and sprinted into the halls. Inside, alarms screamed. Guards fired. She moved like a storm, firing, dodging, pressing forward. Every door she opened, she checked the pods. Not him. Not him. Not. She stopped. Inside one glass pod, a boy looked up. Her heart dropped. Leo? He looked like Leo, but something felt wrong. Mom? The boy said. She hesitated. Then another door opened. And another Leo stood there. This one was scared, tired, real. Ilara! He yelled. That one's not me. The clone turned. His face twisted. You left me behind, he said. But I remember everything. He lunged. The fight was fast and brutal. Ilara dodged, but the clone was faster, stronger. He moved like a trained soldier, but Ilara had something he didn't. Purpose. She caught his wrist, twisted, and slammed him into the pod. Then she fired. The clone collapsed. Breathing hard, Ilara turned to the real Leo. He was crying. Is it really you? He whispered. She hugged him tight. Always. Back in space, the Velcrin ship was breaking apart. Ilara sent a signal. Get out, now. Her allies began to retreat. Ilara carried Leo to her ship. As they escaped the exploding cruiser, a massive blast tore through the engines behind them. The ship shook. Warning lights flashed. Elara turned to Leo. Get in the pod. No, not again. Listen to me, she said. holding his face. "You're everything that matters. I'll find you. No matter what." He nodded, crying. She sealed the pod and launched it. Outside, the Razora, bounty ship she once rode, caught the pod and jumped to safety. But Alara's ship was failing. Power flickered. Systems crashed. She sat in the pilot's seat, watching fire rise around her, but she smiled. Her son was safe. The enemy was bleeding, and her war was not over. The stars over Sector E12 were still burning. Alara Kane's ship, what remained of the little bird, was floating, half destroyed, among the wreckage of the Velcrin lab cruiser she had just torn apart. Inside, alarms flashed. Red dot. She was bleeding. From her arm, her leg was burned. But she was alive, and more important, Leo was safe. The Razor crew had recovered her son's escape pod and disappeared into deep space. Alara smiled through the pain. They'll never touch him again. Then her ship's power failed completely. The cockpit went dark. When Alara woke, she was inside a cold white room. Bounty hunter Mira stood over her, arms crossed. "You're lucky we found your beacon. You were 3 minutes from freezing." Alara tried to sit up. "Where's Leo?" Mira smiled. "Safe, sleeping. The crew's watching him." Alara exhaled slowly. Then she heard it cheering, far outside her room. She limped out into the main hall of the Razor, where a dozen rebel captains were celebrating. Holograms of the destroyed Velcrin ship floated in the air. "You took down their strongest lab ship," one commander said. "And you walked out alive." Another rebel leader handed her a datapad. "You didn't just hit them," he said. "You woke them up." On the pad were intercepted transmissions, Velcrin channels full of panic. "Rebel fleets are mobilizing. Syndicate control slipping in Krullis, Xander, and Earth colonies. Orders to evacuate secondary labs. Alara Kane must be neutralized." The Velcrin Syndicate had ruled by fear. Now they were afraid. Across the stars, people were rising. In the mines of Krullis Prime, workers threw down their tools and took up arms. On the floating cities of Xander 4, militias declared independence. Even on Earth's outer colonies, children painted flames on walls, calling her name. The Flame Mother, Alara, stood before the Rebel Council in a dark command room. They offered her a new role, Supreme Commander of the Flame Coalition, a growing alliance of worlds, fighters and fleets. She shook her head. "I'm not a queen," she said. "I didn't plan any of this." "But you lit the fire," said Thara of Xander. "Now you must lead it." Later she sat quietly beside Leo, watching him draw on the floor. He looked up at her. "Are you going to stop them all, Mom?" Alara smiled gently. "I'm going to try." Leo hesitated. "If they come again." "They won't take you," she said. "Not ever again." But the Syndicate wasn't done. Deep in a hidden moon vault, Director Voss stood over a new war map. Ships were moving, armies gathering. And in the center was a picture of Alara Kane. He tapped the screen. "Bring out the Omega class," he said. His officers hesitated. "But sir, that program's not ready." "Neither was she," he growled. "Now prepare for war." Alara watched the stars outside the Razor's view window. She could feel it in her bones. The Velcrin Syndicate wasn't going to back down, and neither was she. This wasn't just about Leo anymore. This was for every child taken, every parent silenced, every world that had suffered under a shadow. She whispered, "Let them come." Behind her, the rebellion waited. Ahead of her, war was coming. And she would meet it as a mother, with fire in her heart and entire fleets behind her. The Flame Coalition stood at the edge of war. Ships from 3 rebel systems, rogue bounty hunters, freed prisoners, and defected Velcrin soldiers gathered near the burnt moon of Vora's edge. In the center was Alara Kane. No crown, no medal, just a mother in a flight suit standing tall before thousands. She opened the channel. "This is not about conquest, not about revenge. This is about our children. This is about the right to live without fear. Today we end them, The fleets roared. Across the galaxy, the Vulcan Syndicate launched their counterstrike. At the lead was Director Voss, now wearing combat armor forged from crushed planets. His voice thundered through command halls. Erase her, burn her fleet. Show the galaxy what happens to fire when it faces the void. Beside him stood a figure in black. The Omega Unit, a bioengineered weapon copied from Ilara's DNA. Created to destroy her. They weren't fighting a rebellion anymore. They were trying to kill a legend. In space above Xander 4, the stars caught fire. The Vulcan flagship arrived, 10 times larger than any rebel ship. Plasma cannons opened. Fighter squadrons broke apart, but Ilara flew directly into it. Inside, the little bird too rebuilt. Faster, sharper, Ilara guided her team like a hawk. Cut their comm relays, disable engine cores. Drive their ships into each other. All around her, the battle raged, thousands of ships blinking, diving, exploding. But Ilara never looked back. She had one target, Voss's command ship. Meanwhile, on the Razor, Leo stood at a console beside Mira and the crew. He watched the battle unfold, hands shaking. She's in the middle of that, he whispered. Mira nodded. Your mom's not just in the middle, kid. She is the center. Ilara's ship tore into the side of the enemy flagship. She landed in its internal bay and stepped out alone, rifle in hand. Waiting for her was the Omega Unit, a twisted version of herself. Stronger, colder, perfect. You're what they made. To stop me? Ilara said. You're what they needed to fix, the clone replied. They fought. Steel clashed. Energy burned. The Omega was faster, but Ilara was angrier. She slammed the clone into a power core and triggered a surge. The Omega screamed and fell. Ilara limped forward wounded, but not broken. Then Voss entered, in full battle armor. You've ruined everything, he snarled. You ruined yourselves, she replied. They fought. Ilara's speed versus Voss's brute force. He struck her down once, but she got back up. Again, and she rose. Bleeding, panting, she whispered, I am a mother. I will never stop. And she didn't. She drove a stolen spear through Voss's armor and pushed it deep. The tyrant fell. Outside, the Vulcan fleet lost coordination. Rebels surged. Ships fled. Entire sectors surrendered. The war was over. Ilara collapsed beside Voss's body as her team arrived and carried her out. Leo was already on the Razor. When they returned, he ran into her arms. I told you I'd find you again, she whispered. I never doubted you, Leo said. On a broadcast that circled the galaxy, news spread. The Flame Mother had won. Vulcan was broken. The fire had burned through the darkness. 3 weeks after the war, the stars were calm again. The Vulcan Syndicate was gone. Its ships destroyed. Its leaders dead. Its fear scattered like dust. Ilara Kane stood at the center of it all, not as a warrior, not as a ruler, but as a mother who had changed the galaxy. A new alliance had been formed. The Flame Pact, 3 systems, joined. Xander 4, the Fireburn cities, Krellis Prime, the mines of resistance, and Earth's outer colonies. They asked Ilara to lead them. She refused the title of president. She refused the title of general. But the people gave her a new name, Queen of 3 Systems, not for power, for what she stood for. Ilara spent her days helping rebuild. Ships became homes. Weapons became farming machines. Children once taken by Vulcan now played freely under twin sons. And Leo? He laughed again. He ran again. He was finally a child again. One morning, he found his mother sitting on the deck of the Razor, watching the stars. Thinking? He asked. Always, she smiled. He sat beside her. Do you miss it? The fight? She looked at him. I never wanted the fight. I just wanted you safe. Leo nodded. But if it comes again, he asked, would you still fight? Ilara looked to the horizon where new ships now carried hope, not war. And she answered, "Only if someone forgets what a mother can do." Across the galaxy, her legend lived. Statues in market squares, paintings on ship walls, songs sung by soldiers and children alike, the one who burned a path through stars, just to find her child. She never wore a crown, but everyone still called her queen, not because she ruled, because she rose dot in the final message she ever sent to the people. Elara Kane said only this: "Never fear the fire. Sometimes it's how light returns." The end.